and a very warm welcome to the Open Doors Show from Property CEO. My name's Ian Child. I'm here with the other half of Property CEO, Mr. Richie Clapson. Good evening.
Hello there, everyone. Welcome.
Well, it's great to have you with us. And over the next half an hour or so, we're going to be taking a dive into the world of small-scale property development, aren't we, Richie?
Absolutely. And as always on this show, we often talk to the movers and the shakers out there, people that can give us the inside track on what's happening in the world of property development. And we're going to be shining the spotlight on any areas that we think could be a good opportunity for new developers to take a look at. Tonight's show, today's show, this morning's show, depending on when you're listening, is going to be no different.
But Bubble, we're going to try and have a little bit of fun while we do it, because life is tough. Things are hard. But ultimately, you can have a little bit of fun. Life is too short not to. So, Richie, what exactly are we going to be talking about on today's show?
Well, today, this morning, this evening, whenever it is, because obviously you can listen to this on podcast, you can have it on YouTube, you can have it whenever you want. We're going to be talking about starting your own property development company.
Fantastic. So, and as ever, with Open Door, if you would like to find out what's coming up in terms of future shows, and also to be able to ask questions and have your answers given in future shows, please do go onto our website, just follow the links there, and you'll be able to find out what's coming up next. So starting your own property development company sounds, well, I suppose depending on how you look at it, that could be very simple or very complicated. So where do we start with that, Richie?
Well, I think the first thing, and I think the important thing, that clues in the title, okay, it's a company. People think about, and I think we see this here, we see this all the time, that people talk about property strategy. We hear that, don't we, so many times? And I think the important thing is, it's not about strategy, okay? When you're thinking about property and anything in property, whether it's buy-to-lets, whether it's HMO service departments, think of that as a company. But particularly property development, okay? But think of property development as a company. And I know there's a lot of people out there that listen, watch the Open Door Show, listen to it on podcast, watch it on YouTube, are considering getting into property development. They're considering getting into property development, completely new. Maybe they're a landlord trying to transition into it. But think about it as a company. Because I think the important thing, let me ask you, you're out there, you're listening to this, wherever you are, day, night, morning, as I say, how many of you know how to run a business? How many? I'm guessing not that many. And how many of you, let me ask you this, were trained to run a business? Not many, I guess. Would I be right? Not many of you have ever been trained to run a business. So the important thing is you need to know how to do that. You need to know how to run a business. In some ways, it doesn't matter what this business is doing, what it's producing, what it's actually developing. In this case, it's property. But actually, it's about running a business. That's what I want you to know. That's what I want you to think of. And if you know how to run a business, then you are more likely to be successful. And with property development, there is a specific way of actually how to run this business and actually mitigate risk, because we know, don't we? And we know there is risk in property development.
Oh, there definitely is. In fact, but there's risk in every business, in any business. I think one of the things that quite often happens with people is that they, if they've not been trained in business generally, that they quite often just kind of fall into something. So maybe they start a money-making enterprise, an investment strategy, whatever, and then it becomes a business. And anything that kind of generates money is a business. And the key thing is kind of recognizing that, okay, there is a set of kind of skills here that I need to be able to run that business effectively. And yeah, as you say, unfortunately, quite often those kind of get missed out because events kind of overtake them, and some people just don't know what they don't know. So getting that education sort of nailed on at the start, I think, absolutely essential.
Yeah. So the education in terms of running a business, and the other thing people talk about property development, they go, well, I want to know everything about property. Tell me about permitted development rights, which is a key way that we convert buildings without the need for full planning permission. Tell me how I raise the money. Tell me how I build the professional team. Tell me how architects work. Tell me how structure. And they want all the property knowledge, and almost they want to become architects. They want to become, this is the most common one. Everyone wants to project manage their own projects. Oh, no one could do it as well as me. I want to manage my own projects. No, you don't want to do that. A lot of people then also go, would you know, how long would it take to learn all that stuff? It's just going to take me a long, long time. The important thing is, and it's how you actually, and this is really subtle, and maybe you want to write this down. Obviously, don't, if you're driving, do not write this down, okay? Because you could be listening to this on podcasts. If you're running, don't write it down. I'd hate you to trip over and fall over and bang your head. That would not be good. But if you're not running and you're sat down, or you're not driving and you're sat down, then write this down. You need to act as the CEO, okay? The Chief Executive Officer. You need to act as the CEO. That is going to be the way that, one, you're more likely to be successful in starting your property development company, and two, you're most likely to better mitigate your risks. And I guess three, you probably got the skills to do it. You're probably thinking, no, of course I haven't. Clapson, what are you talking about? How have I got the skills to be the CEO? I think you have. I think you've already got the skills. Let me tell you what those skill sets are. The skill sets to be a CEO.
Shall I write this down too?
Say again, Ian.
Shall I write this down too?
I think you should, because I'm going to be bold, Ian. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be bold and suggest that you equally have these skills.
Oh, and I've checked. I'm not driving, or whatever the other thing was, so I'm good for writing it down. Go on then.
Running was the other one, and I don't believe you're running right now.
No. Well,
running out of patience, possibly, but not necessarily running. Okay. So the first skill, organizational skills. Okay. Organizational skills. Can you organize things? Can you get things done? Okay. Can you sort of think, are you organized? Are you generally organized? Maybe you are in what you do. Maybe your existing business. Maybe your existing employment. Maybe you run a bit of a department and you're organized. You get things done. Maybe your desk is organized. You can organize your day. Okay. You can organize structure. You can organize meetings. You chair meetings. Have you got organizational skills? And most of us have, to different degrees, sure. But if anyone out there is in maybe some sort of management role, even junior management, middle management, just starting on the management ladder, you'll have probably to some degree, some organizational skills. And you're probably good at things, because that's why you've moved up the ladder. Almost certainly, if you're listening to this, you're probably a bit of an entrepreneur. You've got an entrepreneurial spirit. And most entrepreneurs have some pretty good organizational skills. That's number one. Have you got that one in?
I've made a note.
No, the question is, have you got organizational skills?
Oh, yes, I have. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, we maybe audience, we should ask for proof of that later on, but we should see. Management skills is the second one. You got management skills, Ian?
I have. I'm just making a note again, but yes,
Excellent.
I've got them.
Excellent. Management skills. So you've got to manage things. And again, very similar to your organizational skills. Where are you now? Are you a manager? Maybe you've managed, as I say, a department, a small team. Maybe you've managed the family at home. I don't know. Maybe you've managed the household. Many people are out there, particularly if we've got a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mum. You've managed the budget, the children, the cash flow of the house. I mean, that is not an easy task. I applaud you if you managed to do that. That's management. That's management skills. So a lot of people out there, again, and a lot of you, I'm certain, that are watching this, listening to this, have got management skills. You've probably been in some management position. As I say, you may have already run your own business in a completely different sector, completely different industry. So have you got management skills, organizational or management skills? Decision-making skills. Are you sure you've got decision-making skills, Ian?
To be honest, I'm not.
Well, there we are then. You see, case in point. But have you got decision-making skills? And I think this is a big one, because you can't be afraid as the CEO to make a decision. Okay, you've got to make that decision. You've got to, when everyone else is looking for guidance, they're looking for someone to organize and manage them. But ultimately, you can't organize and manage anyone or anything unless there's a direction of travel, unless a decision is made in some way. And many of us just sort of sit on the fence and, I'm not really sure about, should I, shouldn't I? Making a decision is the most important thing. It doesn't matter whether it's the right decision or the wrong, but you've moved on. If it's the wrong decision, then it's important to recognize that, reverse back up, go down a different road. But actually making a decision is important. And that's where a lot of people struggle. But, can you do that? Again, I'm going to suggest, if you've got a management role of some description, you've only got into that management role because you're able to make decisions perhaps when others couldn't. So have you got decision-making skills? I mean, you've decided to watch this Open Door show. So presumably you have. Are you still uncertain whether you've got them in?
No, I'm nailed on now. Yeah. No, but they do say that that any decision is better than no decision. I think the other thing to mention here is that in the world of development, it's not as if you get asked a question, what is the what is the load bearing capacity that we should adopt for the second floor? I mean, that isn't a question that anybody is expecting you to know the answer to. What happens is that you get advice, you get guidance, you have a whole team of people that are kind of giving you information, and quite often recommending stuff. But because it's your money, it's your project, you have to sign off on it. So it isn't as if you necessarily get asked all sorts of tricky technical questions that you wouldn't know the answer to. You've got this massive team that can help you. But because the buck stops with you, it's it's ultimately your decision.
So you've got to make that decision. And if you want an answer on the load bearing capacity of the second floor, I can give you that, not a problem at all. And the last one is people skills. Okay. And I'm assuming you've got people skills. I'm assuming you're able to communicate, make eye contact, read body language, to a lesser or more extent, whatever. But have you got those skills? Can you interact with people? Can you encourage people? Can you motivate people? Can you get people to follow you? And again, if you're in a middle management position or a management position, or you run your own business, you've probably got people skills. And people skills are probably the most fundamental one to be a successful property developer. So organizational management, decision, and people skills are what you need. And you need to value those skills, okay? We don't do that enough. And a lot of people, when they come into property development, they think it is about knowing the load bearing capacity of the second floor. And they feel they don't know. So they get this imposter syndrome, this, I shouldn't be here, this is not for me. But actually, all you've got to do is be a leader. You've got to be the glue that sticks the team together. You've got to be the motivator, the inspirer for everyone, okay? You're not supposed to be, as Ian just alluded to there, you're not supposed to be the property expert. If you want to start a property development company, you're going to be the CEO. Get that imposter syndrome out of your head. You're there as a CEO. You're going to bring your skill sets to the table. It's not about what you know about property. Okay, that is really important. Imposter syndrome is a big thing out there, not just in property, is it? It's all over.
Oh, everybody suffers from imposter syndrome to some degree or another, and it's that kind of feeling that we're almost living a lie, that actually we're not supposed to be here, that someone's going to catch us out. We're not qualified to do this, and surely we're just a rank amateur and a newbie, and it's all going to go horribly wrong, and we're going to get found out. But the reality is that everybody kind of looks at the world through that lens to some degree or other, and as a result, it's a kind of a bit of a nonsense. So the reality, as Richie said, is that we kind of need to kind of take ourselves out of that place where we're sort of kind of feeling like we're a newbie. And actually, just the truth of the matter is that because you're not going to be laying any bricks, you're not going to be designing anything, you're not going to be knowing the planning laws inside out, you've got a team of people that are going to be doing that for you. All you are is an entrepreneur who's putting a team together to take a bit advantage of a business opportunity. And that's the end of it. So sometimes you just kind of need to reframe it for yourself, because that's actually all the CEO is. They don't have the technical expertise, they have the team that do.
So as Ian said, it's a reframing. You're not supposed to be the property expert. You need to act as a CEO. Let me just give you an example. Okay, let's just try and make this a little bit real. Let's use the example of our great friend out there. We use him a lot, Sir Richard Branson. He owns lots of companies. Okay, but does he have experience, detailed experience? Does he have the detailed knowledge of all those companies he set up? Be that Virgin Media, Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Money, Virgin Holidays, Virgin Cruises, Virgin Radio, and so on. Well, the answer is he doesn't, does he? He doesn't. And if you think about it, when someone asks him a question on Virgin Holidays, does he know all the exchange rates? Does he know all the destinations that they fly to? Does he know all the hotels and how they all operate? No, he doesn't. He doesn't have all the answers. Like the logo capacity of the second floor, he doesn't have those answers. And indeed, nor should he. In fact, would you not be concerned that Richard's doing the wrong job? He's the CEO, and if he knows all the information about every single hotel, every single thing on the radio station, you go, hang on a minute, you're supposed to be focusing on being the CEO, the organizer, the manager, the leader. Surely that's where you should be. You shouldn't have all this detailed knowledge. So the important thing is, when Richard starts a new business, okay, what he does, he recruits a team. He employs consultants. He employs people that know the industry with many, many years of experience. So any new business, let's take his cruise business. What would he have done? He'd have got a financial expert on board, okay? He'd have got a legal expert on board, all these experts knowing that cruise industry. He'd have got some technical experts, technical experts, not only in terms of actually building the boat, the ship, but actually in terms of the hospitality and the marketing and how everything was going to run and the guest experience. He'd have had experts across all fields. He'd have had some project, some program management experts, because that investment and that ship had to be delivered on a certain time. Of course, he'd have had some manufacturing or operating experts, because they had to build the ship. He didn't just sort of try and build it himself in his backyard on Necker Island, did he? He'd have actually got someone who was a specialist to come and build. So the important thing is, he employs lots of experts for hourly fees, okay, or commissions, however he wants to do it, then explains what he wants. So I want this great big boat, what he wants them to do at high level. Of course, it's broken down, and then the teams go off and deliver that vision. That's what a CEO does. That's what Richard would have done with his cruise line company, and that's what he would do with anything. Does that make sense to him?
It does. I just love the idea of, I can imagine that kind of that first meeting where he's got the great sort of like the industry leads surrounded him around the table, and he says, yeah, right, number one, we need to build a boat. I can just imagine it. So yeah, I think it'd probably be a ship, to be fair, but boat will do.
Boat will do. You see, because we're trying to be the CEOs. I don't know. If someone says, well, hang on a minute, Clapson, it's called a ship. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean, okay? It's a boat, it's a ship. It's a great big thing that we're going to put people on and take them on holiday. Well, obviously he couldn't for a couple of years because of COVID, bless the poor fella. Anyway, let's have a think. Let's take Sir Richard. And to the best of my knowledge, he's not a property developer. But what if Sir Richard Branson wanted to become a property developer? What would he do? What would he do? Just have a think about that, okay? So wherever you are, running, walking, driving, what would he do? So let me ask you this. Would he give it a go? Would he just go out and go, property development, how difficult can that be? Let's just give it a go. Would he ask friends and family, or maybe a mate of his on an adjacent island, what to do? I don't know what's next to Necker Island, but he must have a neighbour. We all have neighbours, don't we, somewhere? And he can't say I don't have any neighbours, can he? He's got another neighbour that's on another island. Would he pop over there and say, George, because that is his neighbour, George Smith. George, I'm thinking of starting a property development company. Any thoughts on what to do? And of course, George is not a property developer. He's another multi-billionaire island owner. What does he know about property? But would he do that? Would he? Would he actually Google it and then jump straight in? Could you imagine Sir Richard Branson, property development for billionaires with their own islands? He's not going to Google it, is he? Is he? He's not, is he? He's not going to do that. No, he wouldn't. He would find someone who's done it before. He would educate himself at high level. He'd learn the difference between a ship and a boat. I'm sure he probably would, to be fair. Okay. He'd educate himself at high level of what he needs to know about the industry. Then what would he do? He'd recruit a professional team to deliver the vision. That's what he'd do. He's not going to ask George next door. He's not going to Google it. He's not just going to give it a go. He's going to use his skills, and he's going to find people that's done it before, and he's going to educate himself to a limited extent. Okay. It's not just a quick, roughly, I know it's called a ship. He needs to know. He obviously researched the cruise industry. He knew how it worked. He knew all the individuals that had to be involved, and he pulled them together. He would have learned, and if he got into property development, he would learn the systems. He would learn the systems at a high level that are needed to achieve success in the property development business sector. If he wants to start this property development company, he would learn the systems. And we have systems, okay? We have systems. There is a manual. There is effectively a franchise manual that will help you deliver property development. So if you want to go out and set up your own property development company, well, of course, you need a copy of the manual, wouldn't you? And the copy of the manual, and because you'd adapt it to what you want to do, pretty much will give you the guidance for how a property development company works. Because don't forget, as I said, it's a company. We call it 8 pillars. Here at propertyCEO, we call it 8 pillars. Number one is credibility and brand. You've got to get someone to take you seriously. Sir Richard, if he's going to become a developer, people have got to take him seriously, even though he is Sir Richard. he's got to build credibility around him in some way for actually doing this. Because is it just a whim, or is Richard doing this seriously? He's got to have a business plan. Inevitably, he definitely will have a business plan of what it is he wants to do, what he wants to achieve. And he's going to put a company structure around it. He's going to put an arrangement around it. So new from financial and tax point of view, it's going to work. He's going to have a professional team around him. He's going to work out how they're going to be. The fourth pillar, it's all about the finance. He's going to work out how this business works, how the property sector works with raising finance. He's going to work out how you find deals. Pillar 7, he's going to work out the technical stuff he needs to know at high level. And pillar 8, which is the last one, he's going to work out how to deliver it. He's going to know the system and the processes to make this work. Makes sense, doesn't it, Ian?
It does. And the point being that he kind of only needs to know that at a high level. He is not going to be diving into the detail on any of it. It's knowing the end-to-end story, isn't it?
It is, yeah. He needs to know enough to bring other people on board, to know he's bringing the right people on board, and to know that he then is managing them at the right level. Okay, now the reality, probably Sir Richard Branson would outsource pretty much everything. But if you try and take this analogy, you're going to be a little bit more hands-on. If you're out there listening to this and you fancy being a property developer, I'm doubting you've got your own island. I mean, maybe you have. I don't know. If you have, good luck to you. Well done. And wouldn't mind an invite. That would be kind. Thank you. But assuming you're going to be a little bit more hands-on, but it's the same principle that you need to understand the manual. I just very quickly identified that there is a manual exists. And to say it's called 8 pillars, and it takes you from credibility to delivery. It takes you through the whole thing. And I often like it in a way, lots of things, and just talking about risk mitigation and success. I talk about sometimes businesses that are successful, like Costa's and McDonald's. Why are they successful? Because there is a manual, there is a franchise manual, there's a process, there's a system that these businesses run to. So Sir Richard, wanting to get into this, Sir Richard Branson would go, okay, who has the best manual out there to deliver so I understand, so I can deliver and set up this company to deliver my projects. That's what he's going to do. He's going to go out and find the manual. He's going to tweak and adjust it to his own purposes. So assuming he's read the manual, okay, he's read the manual, he's understood the manual at whatever level he needs to understand it. What would he do? Well, as I said, he's not going to give it a go. He's not going to Google it. He's not going to ask George on the adjacent island. He's not just going to jump straight in. He would have a financial expert. Exactly the same way when I talked about the cruise line business, he has a financial expert, or the holiday business, he'd have a financial expert. In property development, he'd have a financial expert. It's probably a property accountant and also a cost consultant or quantity surveyor. Those are the financial people that work around this industry. He'd have a legal expert, okay? In the same way, when he actually went out into the marine industry or the holiday industry, he'd have a legal expert, had expertise in that industry. Well, he'd have a property lawyer. He'd have a property lawyer if he was going to be a property developer. He'd have technical experts. So in the holiday industry, the marine industry, he'd have experts that knew about the boats or knew about the hotels. Technical experts here, he'd have architects. He'd have planning consultants. He'd have structural engineers. So on, so on, and so on. He'd have all these technical experts. Of course, he's got to deliver the project. And he's not going to deliver it himself because he's a CEO. In the same way you'll be a CEO. You won't be delivering this project yourself. So what would Sir Richard have? Well, he'd have a project manager, a project or program manager, an industry property project manager, someone that can actually control the project, pull the team together, run the contractor, put the contracts together, and make sure it's delivered on time, on budget, to the right quality. Exactly as he would in the marine industry or the holiday industry. And of course, then underneath that project manager, he'd have a manufacturing operating expert team in some way. Well, here we're talking about a contractor, a property industry construction contractor. So if he was building his hotels, maybe he'd have a similar thing. Maybe actually he's got someone who's putting the business plan together. But of course, building his boats, he'd have a shipyard. He'd have a shipyard somewhere around the world building that ship, someone manufacturing it for him. Here in the property development industry, he'd have a building contractor, someone who's going to deliver the project for him. And effectively, he just runs it as a CEO. He has his financial expert, his legal, his technical, his program, project, manufacturing, and he runs it as a CEO. It just links across, doesn't it? It's almost applicable to any business, this approach.
Absolutely. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's I mean, that's one of the big advantages of property development specifically, is that it's quite a complex thing, but ultimately you're employing people that have got decades of experience in their particular discipline, whether that's being an architect, project manager, whatever. And so when you look at the team, there could be literally, centuries of experience among them, and you're able to leverage that. And nobody is looking at your bricklaying skills to say, not so sure, because you don't need them. At the end of the day, your team has built hundreds, and if not thousands, of projects. So, why wouldn't they be able to do another one?
I think here, the interesting thing as well is this point that he's running it. Okay, he's running the team, running the business as a CEO. And I think the problem a lot of people think when they get into this, and particularly if you've come from buy-to-lets or HMOs or service departments, you're very hands-on, aren't you? Yeah, you're very hands-on in those sort of businesses. Well, here, you're more hands-off. Okay, so Richard would not be on site checking the contractor every 5 minutes. He wouldn't be, and nor would you. If you're going to run a property development company, you're not on site every 5 minutes. In fact, the contractor doesn't want you there. It's not your job. You're the CEO. You haven't got the expertise to go and check whether the brickwork mortar is correct or whether the electrics are wired up properly. And nor should you have. And if you have that knowledge, well, then you're in the wrong position. So he wouldn't be on site every 5 minutes. I tell you definitely what he wouldn't be doing in development. He wouldn't be picking up the bathroom suites in the back of his car to save a few quid. And come on. Well, do you know, we hear it, don't we? We hear this so many times about new developers that they want to go and get save a couple of quid by getting the bathroom themselves. Have you heard that?
I have heard that many times. Yeah, it's not a good look.
It's not. And do you know? And I want you to get that out of your head. If you don't get that out of your head, I'm coming round. Okay, and that is a threat. I'm coming round to sort you out because you can't do that. And I've seen developers fall into that trap. They go, it's a big markup here from the contractor. I'm not having that. I can get bathroom suites a lot cheaper on, National Landlords Association or something. Or I don't know what they have. There's something they all have. They all quote these bathroom cost figures, or there's a special on at B&Q. Great. But are you the CEO? Richard Branson would never, I don't know what car he's got. I don't know if he's got an estate, but he'd never, imagine his driver going down to pick up a bathroom suite. He wouldn't do it.
No.
And nor should you. Okay, don't do that. Do not fall into that trap. Okay. As I say, he'd have his project manager, he'd engage with a main contractor. It is a complete one-stop shop. That's how he would do it. So the important thing, I think the really important thing here, if you want to start a property development company, first of all, think that it's a company. It just happens to be in property development. But think of it as a company and ask yourself, have you got those skills? If you have, okay, use those skills. Organizational, management, decision-making, and fundamentally people skills. If you've got those skills, you can use those skills, learn the system, okay? We call it 8 pillars. Other people might call it different things. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, learn the system, get the manual, get the franchise manual for that industry, in this case, property development, and then act as the CEO. Not only will that mean that you can get taken seriously, not only does that mean that you can transition into this and do this and mark those thoughts on imposter syndrome that we talked about earlier, but massively, this will mitigate your risks. This will reduce your risk down. And that's important in property development. Think of this as a company, act as a CEO. What do you think, Ian? Good advice?
Loving your work. Yeah. And I think, what if people wanted to know a little bit more about property development? Because I guess for a number of people, perhaps property development does sound a little scary, complex, and a bit of an unknown quantity. How could they find out more?
Well, if you are brand new to property development, I know we have a lot of existing students that listen to this, and you're all welcome. And of course, almost certainly there'd be someone listening to this, be it on podcast or on YouTube, who are first time in the industry thinking what to do. Come and join us. Grab a pen and paper. If you want to come and join us, I've got a free couple of hours worth of webinar. It's up for a limited time, so grab it while you can. And it's going to give you a bit of an introduction, get your toe dipped in the water a little bit about property development. I'm going to be talking about how you find deals. I'm going to be talking about how you raise money. I'm going to be talking a bit about how you analyze them, a bit of planning, a bit about being a landlord developer. Quite a few bits and pieces on there over a couple of hours. So we've got a pen. Hopefully you have. Write this down. propertyceo.co.uk/SFR. And that's for six-figure roadmap. We call it six-figure roadmap because it's a roadmap to getting you earning six-figure sums year in, year out. propertyceo.co.uk/SFR. There we go. Hopefully you'll come and join me on that webinar.
Fantastic, Richie. Thank you so much. Well, some interesting thoughts there, particularly with regards to Richard Branson, Necker Island Boatyard. You heard it here first. If you'd like to find out what's going on future shows, please do, as mentioned earlier, go on to our website and you can find out who our up-and-coming guests are going to be and have an opportunity to ask them some questions. I hope you've enjoyed this show. We'll be back on another Thursday on our YouTube channel, but you can watch, as Richie said, at any time of the day you like. He's been Richie Clapton. I've been Ian Child. We'll see you next Open.
Thanks now. Bye-bye.